Hey again everybody, this is Monty Plazos with your tarot lesson number 4. Today we're going to talk about significators. Okay, so the significator is the card from the tarot deck that will signify or represent the person who the reading is being performed for. Okay, so when you stop to think about that for a moment, it's really kind of amazing because you have to take in the idea that with all of the different types of people in the world, different races, nationalities, that we need to find a single card to represent the specific person that's sitting before us, or to represent ourselves for that matter. So how do we do that? How does that happen? Well, different readers have different methods, and I'll discuss a few of those today for you to give you an idea. One of the simplest methods is to simply divide the entire human species into male and female, to its dyad. The method is to choose the magician card to represent all men and the high priestess card to represent all women. And so the significator, if you're reading for a man, or if you're a man and you're reading for yourself, would be the magician card every time. And if it's a female or you're a female, then it would be the high priestess card every time. The problem that I have with this particular method is that when you choose a significator, that card is basically taken out of the deck. And so it ceases to be interpreted as anything other than the querent or the client. So by using major arcana, you are taking one or maybe two of the most significant and most important types of cards in the deck out of the equation. And so for that, I just really don't like to do that. Major arcana are really too important to be taking out of the deck for anything other than their intended purpose. The next method we're going to discuss is probably the most common method, and one that those of you who are familiar with the tarot will probably be familiar with. If you remember, in our first lesson, we talked about the court cards. Those are the cards that represent actual people, physical people in your reading. And so these lend themselves quite well to becoming a significator. And the way that that's done, or the most common way that that is done, is to base your choice off of the physical characteristics of your client or your querent or yourself, if you're reading for yourself. For people with dark complexions and black hair, you would choose from the pinnacles. For blondes and redheads with light skin, you would choose from the rods. For people with dark hair and moderate to dark skin tones, you would choose from the swords. And for people with light brown hair and fair to moderate skin tones, you would choose from the cups. All right, so now men who are 30 plus years of age, you would use a king. Okay. For women who are 30 plus years of age, you would use a queen. For men who are 18 to 29 years of age, you would use a knight. And for women who are 18 to 29 years of age, you would use a page. There are other ways of using the court cards which kind of incorporate the astrological associations with each card, but I really find those are complicated, unnecessarily complicated, to be honest with you, and really are trying too hard to focus in and force a specific card to fit a specific person. when it comes to choosing a significator, as long as it reminds you of the person that you're reading for, then it's good. But you have to be consistent with it. You can't change up your significator. You can't use a King of Pentacles for a significator this time and a Knight of Pentacles next time. Once you choose the significator for that particular client or for yourself, then it is that card always and forever, as long as you're doing the readings. The last method that I'm going to discuss is the one that I personally use and the one that I find the most effective for me. And what it does is it utilizes the client's birth information and then through numerology comes up with what card represents them. And this encompasses the entire minor arcana. For the sake of our example here, we're going to say that our client has a birth date of October 12th, 1975. So we know from the get-go that the client is a Libra because of their birth date. And Libra is a sign that is associated with the element of air. And if you remember from lesson 1, the element of air corresponds to the suit of rods or wands. So we know that our client is going to have that particular suit as their significator. So then we take the actual birth date, and through a process that is known as theosophic addition and reduction, we're going to reduce their birth date information to a one-digit number. We lay the numbers out just like you see here. All right, so we have 10, 12, 1975. That becomes 1 plus 0, 1 plus 2, and then 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 5. Those are added together, so your 1 plus 0 equals 1, your 1 plus 2 becomes 3, and your 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 5 becomes 22. Now, the other ones are one digit, 22 of course is two digits, so we reduce that again, 2 plus 2 is 4. So now we're left with 1, a 3, and a 4, which if we add together equals 8. So the client has as their significator the 8 of rods, or the 8 of wands, which is known by its occult title of the Lord of Swiftness, which also gives us a little insight into the characteristic of the client, especially if it's someone we don't know. The Lord of Swiftness tells us that this client is quick to action, quick to decide, quick to do things. All right, so they may get themselves into a lot of trouble by not thinking things through before they actually act. So that's something we need to keep in mind as we're reading for this particular person. Also, a thing to keep in mind when you're using the theosophic reduction and addition, if you come up with the number 1, 1 is excluded because 1 would be an ace, and aces are extremely important cards in a deck, so we don't use those when choosing a significator. You would move it up to 2. All right, so if the client's birth information equals up to a 1, that becomes a 2. Okay, so it's from 2 to 9 that you choose from. Now that we have the significator, what do we do with it? All right, so let's look at a sample spread here and use our example from above. So let's say that our client in this reading, our client has come to us with relationship problems. All right, they have recently ended a very difficult relationship and are looking to see if a new relationship is in the cards for them and if it's coming soon. All right, so the spread that we're going to use today is not our 5 card that you saw in the previous lessons. We're going to bump it up now and we're going to move into a more popular spread, probably the most popular spread of any tarot spread that I've ever seen. Most readers use this one, even seasoned readers, but it's a really good beginner spread for you to use. It gives you a lot of good insight into the Quarian's life and the energies that are kind of surrounding them at the time. So it's a very, very good one. Pay close attention. We'll take it kind of slow and I'll guide you through the entire process of how this spread works. It's called the Celtic Cross Spread. And here we go. The Quarian significator is the 8 of rods, so we take that card out, place it down first. Now we shuffle, we cut the cards and lay them out into the spread. This first card that we flip on top of the significator is said to cover the querent. This card represents the forces acting in the client's life at the moment. The next card we place across the other, this crosses the querent. It tells us what forces are in opposition to the querent, if there's any blockages, or what's the problems that they are confronting. The next card is placed here and is said to crown the querent. It tells you what the person hopes for in the current state of affairs, how they hope things are going to turn out. The next card is placed below and is said to be beneath the querent. This card tells you the foundation of the matter, the things that the querent has already experienced that are relevant to this particular situation. The next is placed to the left and is said to be behind the querent, the influences that are passing now or have just recently passed. The next is placed to the right and is said to be before the querent. This shows the influences that will operate in the near future. The next 4 cards are placed in a line to the far right from bottom to top, like this. The first one is the querent's attitude. The second is the querent's home and family life. The third is the querent's hopes and fears. And finally, the outcome card. This card represents the culmination of all the energies so far. Now let's interpret our cards. First thing to notice is the majorities. Right off the bat, I see that out of 10 cards, half of them are major arcana. This lets me know instantly that the querent is in a position where forces out of their control are having massive influences in their life at this time. The next thing that I notice is a predominance of swords. This tells me that there's a lot of strong conflict, struggle, and obstacles within this querent's life at the moment. The next card that jumps out at me is the Ace of Wands in the future. Aces are fixed cards, meaning that they cannot be avoided, and the querent needs to be aware of this influence and be able to identify its energy in order to properly benefit from it or adapt to it if it's a negative. Okay, now let's break it down in order. What is covering the querent at this time? 2 of Swords. Despite the fact that the client has informed me that they have recently broken off their relationship, the 2 of Swords tells me this may not be entirely true. The 2 of Swords tells of peace restored after an argument. The relationship may be on the rocks, but the client is still emotionally attached and possibly considering the idea of keeping the relationship. Looks like one of those on-again, off-again relationship situations. This was actually confirmed by the client when I discussed it. What's crossing the querent at this time? The Strength card is opposing the client. The Strength card means exactly what it says, strength and fortitude. So in essence, the client is a person who meets adversity with courage, and while this can be a very positive thing in some areas of life, in this particular case, the client is being obstinate and trying to remain in a situation that is not healthy. They don't like to admit defeat or failure, and this extends into their love life. This is definitely a problem that needs to be addressed if happiness and love is going to become a reality for this person. What's crowning the querent? The Sun card is above the client, and this card speaks of glory, victory, and gain. So the client is hoping that they can be victorious in their love life, and this, again, can be a problem for them. To view a relationship as a sort of quest to conquer or gain will usually lead to conflict. It is becoming quite clear, because of the predominance of the major arcana, that the client is going through a karmic life lesson, and this one won't be easy. What is beneath the querent? The Tower card. Never a good sign, and a definite confirmation that the client is about to have the universe give them a very big wake-up call. The Tower is the card of fall, destruction, war, and ruin. However, keep in mind that the Tower card is a card which foretells rapid and swift changes that will burst the querent's personal bubble. The Tower is struck by lightning and it's on fire, but it still stands. The Tower card will shake away the weaker parts of the querent's life, allowing them to rebuild stronger if they can learn from the experience. What's behind the querent? The 3 of Swords is the card of unhappiness, sorrow, and tears. The client has not had any luck in the past with love and relationships. They are coming from a long string of failed relationships, and this may have tempered their idea that a relationship is something to master and conquer. What's before the querent? The Ace of Rods is in their immediate future. Here's where we get to the nitty-gritty. Ace of Rods shows an enormous influx of mental energy coming at the client, an epiphany of sorts, which will have a strong positive influence. Aces are fixed, and so the entire reading is hinged on this card. The client has lived their life with the idea that their relationship should be as easy and conquerable as anything else. They do not necessarily see their partners as individuals, but as an idea or a concept which can be checked off the list. Got a partner? Check. That's done. Should be the end of it. They are about to realize that relationships are a melding together of two differing energies, which requires attention and sharing. This mental epiphany is coming because the tower has been struck and the client's life is falling apart. The universe is speaking and they are finally going to listen. What is the Quarian's attitude to this? The Chariot card speaks of the client taking the reins and getting control of their own life. It is a card of victory, success, and good health. The client will adapt quickly to this new epiphany and adjust their life accordingly. This is in line with their significator as well, because they are ruled by the Lord of Swiftness. Action usually comes quickly for them. How is the Quarian's home and family life in regards to this? The Seven of Swords shows that in the home or family life there is someone who is untrustworthy, giving bad advice. Here we get a slight glimpse into perhaps how this client has been affected by those around them. Perhaps their parents had a bad relationship from which the client drew habits or behaviors which were flawed. Now the card is reversed, which shows the character on the card to be facing away from the reading and tells me that this person's influence is leaving and that the bad advice or habits will no longer be affecting the client in the future. All good signs. What are the Quarian's hopes and fears? The Nine of Swords is the card of illness, suffering, and malice, cruelty, and pain. These are obviously what the client fears. They are opening themselves up to new situations and new ideas, and there is a legitimate fear of making themselves vulnerable and weak. However, everything previously discovered shows that the client is courageous in the face of adversity and will overcome this with a more balanced view. What is the final outcome for the Quarian? The Lover's card is the outcome. This is the card of inspiration, power, and action that comes through the inspiration. And of course, it shows a relationship is imminent in the not too distant future as well. I have found that with this particular spread, the time frame covered from start to finish is around 3 to 4 months. So the client should take that time frame to work on themselves and process their newfound epiphany. I would advise them to stay out of any relationships until then, and to also not revisit old relationships that have failed. They need new energies to match their own new energies. Things will work out quite well for this person, and they will find their happy relationship in the future. It's definitely in the cards. Alright, that's our lesson 4 video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and make sure to hit that bell too so that you can get notifications when I upload new content. Also, tune in next week. We're going to do a different spread. We're going to do the Sacred 7 spread next week. So also make sure you stay tuned for our upcoming episodes of the Neophytes. As soon as we're through with this quarantine, we're going to start filming that. And the Neophytes is where I'm going to take in a handful of students and run them through the crucible of occult knowledge, lessons, and initiations. So, should prove really interesting. You guys stay safe and thanks for watching.